Find product links below and hundreds more videos on my channel.
Hi everyone, welcome back. So I don't like to repeat myself whenever possible. So in this review, I'm actually going to be doing not just a review of this, but a mini review of this, and then mostly a comparison between all the different sliders from Canova, because I've actually tried all of them. So for example, in the K1 review, I did a sort of fairly short review about the K1, and then I showed it in use as a DIY shoulder rig. And then in the K2 review, I did a fairly short review about the K2, and then I compared it to other brands of sliders that I tried at the time, which was quite a long time ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago or something. And then the K3 and K5 reviews, I compared them to the Veravon equivalent sliders, as well as showed them in use with various other pieces of equipment. And actually the K5 review I showed quite a lot in use on location. And then this is the K7, the largest slider that they do, so I thought it would be fitting for this review to be a mini review, like a fairly short review about the actual slider itself, and then a comparison between all the different sliders that they do, the K1, K2, K3, K5, and K7, and then my recommendation for the different lengths and what lengths I think work best for what uses. So let's get right to it. This is the Konova K7. It is a great slider, actually probably the nicest slider that I have seen. Now, as usual, it's actually rare for me to not have to sort of adjust the bearings on any slider I order, but once I adjust them perfectly, then I know just how good that slider could be after a little bit of, really fine tweaking to get those bearings just the right amount of pressure on the rail. Because of course most sliders have a sort of variable bearing adjustment so that you can actually press it harder up against the rails or not. So here I've set it up really, really nicely, so it's just, holding on to the rail really, really well, and of course not putting too much pressure so it doesn't add too much drag. So as you can see, it is really, really nice and smooth. And so it is very difficult to actually explain how smooth different sliders are, but holy crap, this thing is smooth. And with that smoothness comes stability. With the larger rail here, we actually are able to get this very, very, very smooth and very sort of frictionless. But at the same time, the carriage here is just supremely solid. And so that with the other Canova sliders, it was always, fairly good. And I will go into that in a little bit more detail at the end of this video, or sort of about halfway in this video. But basically this thing does, even though it's a fairly small difference, I love the quality here. It is just really, really solid and really, really smooth at the same time, meaning you don't have to press the bearings up against the rail really hard in order to get it really solid and then lose the smoothness. So, okay, so it comes with a nice little carrying case. Not very much to say about it, but just good, perfectly fine. Nice and padded, has an opening at the top. Comes with little cases like this, which you can put the feet into. And the feet are great. They're really quick to adjust. And by the way, I know this looks kind of weird right now. I'm actually very, very close to the camera. I'm actually touching the lens right now, and it's got like a super wide lens on there, the 14mm on the 5D. So that's just so you can see a top view of what I'm doing here. And okay, so these connect to the slider very quickly. Generally, I don't really always connect these up. If I want to go down to the floor, then I'll take these out. But most of the time, I don't really bother putting them on while I'm shooting on a tripod. I just don't find the need to do it. But, it's fine. They just stay in there, and then it's very, very quick to take them out when needed. And they do connect very nicely and very easily to the side there. And as you can see, I don't have to start opening these things and adjusting them until, unless I put them on the ground and I see it needs a little bit of adjustment, then I can do that. But these feet are fantastic quality compared to most of the other stuff I've seen on different sliders. So really, really lovely. And it does come with two cases, but I find it easier to just stick both feet into one case, and then I have one case spare that just gets left at home. So that goes in there. And then carrying case comes with a nice strap for your shoulder and stuff. So perfectly fine, absolutely no complaints there. So that goes there. Okay, and then I have the K2 here, which I'll review in another video, because this is actually a new unit of the K2 because I sold my old one. So Okay, so the slider comes with two of these things, which is nice. They don't fall off like they do on some other sliders, which is great. For example, on the K5, they don't fall off, and on this they don't fall off, but on the K3, they do. You know, so it's not a big issue. Just here, I don't have to worry about them falling off. They'll just stay on there. Now, this does have a bubble level on here. On all the other Canova sliders I've tried, the bubble level was perfect. On this one, it's a little bit wonky. I could probably easily fix that, but I think the person who glued it in just didn't press it down properly. And so actually recently I noticed a few very tiny sort of issues with the quality control on Canova products. On the last two I ordered, the K3 and the K7, this one, the quality control was a little bit less than I've seen before, because before I'd seen amazing quality control, really, really great. So I'm actually going to send them a message and let them know, hey guys, I think you need to just pay a little bit more attention to quality control. But there wasn't any real problems. I just noticed like just something in the connections here wasn't sitting exactly straight and that sort of thing. So absolutely nothing that actually caused any problem. As an example here, there is a tiny gap between where this metal piece connects to the slider. So now that makes absolutely no difference to usage in any way, shape or form. That tiny little gap that I can fit my thumb into, my thumbnail. But it's just noticeable. So just something I wanted to mention, and I will, I'll message Canova. Hopefully they will, put a little bit more attention onto quality control. However, they actually do have much better quality control than some other brands that I've tried. So I am actually overall very, very happy with that. Never had any missing stuff from the package or anything like that. So overall, pretty good. So the carriage here is good, it's fine. It's a nice big thick piece of metal. It does have these little bumpers on the end, which is great. Some sliders don't have that, which means that the bearings could hit into the metal on the side, as well as these things acting as both stoppers if you wanted to make sure it doesn't go much further than that. So you could actually use that as a little bit of a stopper, and then of course you could clamp that down if you wanted. So if you really wanted to have that go much faster or something, and you wanted this to actually stop it, then you could actually use some sort of clamp or something on here. But generally, these are good enough to, to give a little bit of a bumper. And of course, at the end, they provide a little bit of extra sort of bumpy protection. Now, we have a lock on here, which works just fine. That lets you lock this so it doesn't move. And then, by the way, the setup I have here to use this, this is a 150 centimeter slider, so it's quite a big one. And so what I have here is I have the Veravon 535, lovely, lovely tripod, and I have the legs spread outwards, which means that this thing, I can just let the camera go right to the side. I know it's not going to fall over. So tripod that works well with this would be either the Manfrotto 535, which is expensive, or the Velbon DV7000. So you can see my review of that down below. It's from a really long time ago. It's probably not a good review. I mean, it just, it wasn't shot very well. And so maybe I'll get another one of those and review them again. But basically, DV7000, actually very lovely little cheapo tripod. And so those legs actually go very wide. So if you want to get something that goes, a very long slider like this, then you could do that. Now, one thing about the slider itself is that in the photos of this slider, they show that it has holes cut out of it to save weight. But actually, when I got this, I noticed that there was almost no weight difference. I couldn't really feel a weight difference between this and the K3 of the same length. So I'm not too bothered that they didn't have the holes cut out of this. I think they didn't have the holes cut out of this because I contacted them and I asked them if they had a 150 centimeter unit. And this was actually one of the first 150 centimeter units that they sent out, because they weren't actually available in the store. And they said, yeah, we're just about getting them ready. So maybe that's why they sent me one that doesn't have the holes cut out of it, just out of the metal. Doesn't make a difference to me. Would have been nice to have a little bit of weight saved, but it's fine. And so, okay, so then I have on here, I have the Veravon head on there and the Veravon leveling base, which allows me to sort of, tilt this. And then the Manfrotto 520 ball right there, so it allows me to tilt this. And so if you've seen my video on the ultimate slider, where I actually showed this in use in a very complicated way, which you can see in that video, then you can see that this here isn't really ideal for tilting. I mean, it will work, but it doesn't have the counterweight that I used in the other one. So it's not really an ideal thing to actually tilt. But I mean, it's doable. You know, you could do it like this. If I lock this in place, you could do some tilts, but it's not going to be as easy to work with as the other one. You know, as easy to get really great shots. But, you know, still doable at this sort of slightly low tilt. The more you tilt, you know, the more effort you have to put into actually making it go really, really smoothly. But it still, you know, obviously depends on the user. And, okay, by the way, I will have a separate video that will actually discuss, you know, doing all these sort of tilting and vertical shots. So, let's get to the comparison of the different sliders. So what do I think? Well, in my experience, I have found that the K1, let me just adjust this, okay. So the K1 was good, it was fine. I did notice that with a large system and a large head, if I wanted to use it like this with a fluid head system, and I wanted to actually do sort of tilt and moves while I'm sliding, which is obviously why I have a fluid head system on there, then that meant that you know, there was a little bit of flex right there where this meets this. There was, even after I adjusted the bearings, there was still a little bit of flex, and so that little bit of flex meant that it was just so let me sort of exaggerate it. So let's say this thing would be doing that sort of thing. So with that little bit of flex, it meant that I just wouldn't be able to properly use this. It wouldn't be ideal. So the same thing surprisingly goes for the K3. There is slightly too much flex in there, in the bearing system. And so for me, it's not ideal to have that. And so if you want a slider for a very low cost, which is very good, the K2 is actually the one to go for. The K2 is actually very, very solid, and obviously not quite as good as the K5 and the K7, but very, very good with almost no flex at the carriage system. And then there is a very small improvement when you go up to the K5, and a very small improvement then again when you go up to the K7. But I'm sorry that I can't tell you any more than that. All I can say is all three are freaking fantastic. I would be happy shooting with the K2, but if I had the budget, yes, I would go for the K7. Would I go for the K5 again? No, I wouldn't. The K5 is a great slider, but when there's dust on the slider, it feels that, you know, it feels the little dust particles more than the K7 or the K2. And so what that means is that when you know, it's not a problem. It just meant that I had to, you know, reach for the little cleany things a little bit more often, or grab, you know, like a little cloth and give it a wipe a little bit more often. And so it's absolutely not a huge issue, but it's just, now that I've used all of them, I noticed that the K2 and the K7, because they have, as far as I can see, they have thinner rails here and here. Actually, I'm not sure if this one is thinner than the K5, but for some reason, they seem to almost not notice the dust, even if they are dusty. So, you know, they could be really dusty and I could still get nice smooth shots with them. Whereas the K5 did always seem to sort of, I could feel the dust a little bit more. Not a huge issue, but that's why, because the K7 is sort of, you know, close to the price of the K5, I would say don't bother with the K5, get yourself the K7. If you don't have the budget for K7, you would be fantastically happy with the K2. It's a lovely, lovely little slider. And of course, just a fantastic value for money. And so I will be going with the K7 because I do feel that difference in the stability of the thing here, and it is, you know, as smooth as things can be. Man, you know, there's a difference there. You know, I mean, this is perfectly smooth, and then this somehow just feels like butter, you know. And then okay, so again, K1 and K3, don't bother. You know, they're nice little sliders. If you want to just place a little ball head on there and then, you know, just do that kind of shot, and you're not doing it with anything with a fluid head, perfectly fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. Except that you might as well go for the K2. With the K3, go for the K2. You'll save some money and get a better slider. With the K1, spend a little bit more. I think the price difference is really tiny. By the way, sorry, there's an alarm going off over there. So with the K1, there's just no point. Spend a tiny bit more and you get the K2, which is better. And then K5 is fine, but ultimately, K2 or K7. I hope that has been helpful to you guys who want to choose between them. And then now, what different lengths should you go with? Well, the 150 centimeter is lovely to have if you want to do like a really long shot. But I find that most of the time, I don't need the shot that long, as well as the fact that of course it won't fit into a suitcase, and so it is a little bit sort of a difficult choice to make. But basically, if I wanted to make a shot this long, I could, except that sometimes at the end it's sort of difficult to actually get it perfect because your body's moved to a completely different position. So with 150 centimeter, I would say for a lot of people it's probably a little bit overkill. However, the 80 centimeter, which is actually the only thing I bought this biggest suitcase I could get that would, that would actually be good for my uses and fit a lot of equipment. And that was, posted a review about it. It's absolutely lovely. The Samsonite suitcase with the 4 wheels, so it just rolls around. And so an 80 centimeter slider will fit in there, but a 100 centimeter slider won't. And a 100 centimeter slider is kind of what I want. 80 centimeters is a little bit short for my uses. I got, lots of really lovely shots with it. I used 80 centimeter for ages with my K5, but when I had my K2, and before that I had other sliders as well that were 100, 90 or 100, then 100 is just great. It's the perfect amount of movement that I can still get the shot all the way to the end of the slider with one sort of body movement. And it is, nice and compact, fairly low cost. And when the slider gets to the end on most tripods, when the carriage and the camera get to the end, on most tripods, even ones that don't go quite as big as this one, as wide as these feet go, even with those, the thing won't want to fall over. And so with that in mind, I would say 100 centimeters is great. It just means that if you don't need to fit it into a suitcase, which of course if you need to go in a suitcase, 80 centimeters is probably the longest you'll be able to fit in there, then 100 centimeters would be my overall preference. And if I wanted to maybe get a little bit longer, personally I went for 150 because I figured, hey, what the hell, doesn't really make a difference to me since I anyways can't fit it into a suitcase. Then what the hell, let's go for 150, and then I have a little bit extra if needed. And then what you might want to do is, if you're working with a tripod that has a smaller footprint, then and you get a longer slider like 150 or 120, then you might want to get some clamps of some sort and clamp them onto there, or maybe connect something into these little screws that are right there and there, so that the carriage doesn't slide too far and then make the whole thing fall over. And so, that's something that you just, for safety, if you find it needed. And so here is the Manfrotto, which is really lovely. And of course, if I wanted to, with this Manfrotto, I could get the feet to go even wider and, even... So, I mean, these feet would go just a crazy amount. By the way, I know that doesn't look like the feet are very wide right now, but they are actually... Right now, they're actually wider than the slider itself. The feet are actually going to there. And because you're watching this from a ridiculously wide angle lens, then it actually looks like they're sort of shorter, but they're actually reaching there. So that's... Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope this hasn't been too long, and I hope I have given a lot of very useful information in this video. I'm very sorry for that freaking annoying alarm system, but hopefully you didn't hear that too bad. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye!